This British passenger ship, SS Waratah, created huge headlines after it went missing in 1909. Its disappearance was quite mysterious. It set sail from Durban, a coastal city in eastern South Africa, to Cape Town. The trip should only take a couple of days, and throughout its travel, it crossed paths with multiple ships. Yet somehow, it disappeared without any trace left behind. The SS Waratah was a newly built ship and was destined to be the flagship of one of UK's biggest shipping companies. The total cost was around £139,000. With its huge cost to build came a hefty price tag for passengers who wished to get on board. The ship was designed for luxury. It had a dedicated music lounge, a salon, and multiple luxurious rooms. It's clear the ship was targeted for the wealthy. While the ship was equipped with top-of-the-line materials, it lacked one essential item on board: radio equipment. The ship set out for its first trip on November 5, 1908. It departed from London, stopped over in Cape Town, then sailed to its destination in Australia. On the return to London, the captain, Joshua Edwards Ilbery, informed the company that there was some instability issues with the ship. Even though he addressed this, the company disagreed with his statement and refused to make any changes. The second trip set out in April 1909, and it sailed on the same route, from London to Cape Town, then to Australia. On the way back, the ship stopped over in Durban and was scheduled to arrive in Cape Town. The SS Waratah was expected to arrive in Cape Town on July 29th. Now, it was not uncommon for ships to be late, but after a couple of days passed by, other much slower ships who shared the same route started arriving. At this point, people grew worried. Eventually, 3 ship captains came forward and claimed to have crossed paths with the missing ship. The first one happened around 4 in the morning on July 27th. Clan McIntyre, another ship sailing through the coast near the delta of the Banshee River, spotted the SS Waratah behind traveling at a faster speed. By 6 a.m., it caught up with the Clan McIntyre and overpassed it. Then, by 9:30 a.m., the SS Waratah was so far ahead that the Clan McIntyre ship could no longer see it. The second one, also the same day, around 5:30 p.m., the captain of the ship Harlow saw a huge smoke cloud on the horizon that caught his attention. Initially, he thought that the streamer was on fire. He got out of the control room and checked that everything was all right. But from afar, about 12 miles behind, he saw 2 huge flashes, as if something had exploded. At the time, he didn't think too much about it, and only came forward with this information after the Waratah went missing. The final sighting happened on the same evening at 9:40. The ship Gulp was heading from Cape Town to Durban, the opposite direction. It encountered an unknown ship for a couple of miles. Unfortunately, due to the heavy fog, the captain wasn't sure if the ship was the SS Waratah, so he used his binoculars to identify it. He saw partial markings of the ship's name, 3 letters, TAH. Since the visibility was so low, he turned on the ship's signal lamp to communicate with them, and in return, the ship also signaled back. Although he didn't see a clear side of the ship, it was enough for him to assume that it was the SS Waratah. These 3 sightings happened on the same day, and the first sighting was the most credible one since it happened during the daytime and the captain clearly saw it. Now for the other 2 sightings, there is a conflict between the 2. If indeed the large explosions came from the Waratah ship, then the captain on the 3rd sightings may have mistaken the ship for something despite the markings on the boat. Again, these last 2 sightings were quite a blur. If only the ship had been equipped with a radio, communication between these ships and stations would have been much easier, and maybe could have prevented this whole incident. Not all the passengers of the SS Waratah continued the journey. One passenger, Claude Sawyer, disembarked from the ship after it reached Durban. He was an avid sea traveler, and he felt that there was some serious instability of the ship. The night before arriving in Durban, he stated that he had a very strange dream. Published in the newspaper, he said, "In the early morning, I had this peculiar dream. I saw a man dressed in a very peculiar dress, which I had never seen before, with a long sword in his right hand, which he seemed to be holding between us. and the other hand, he had a rag covered with blood. He also stated that as soon as he woke up, he warned the officers about it, but none of them listened to him. A tugboat was first deployed to initiate the search effort. It sailed on the same route but found nothing. So in hopes of accelerating the rescue, 2 Navy ships were used, the HMS Pandora and HMS Forte. Along the coast, the HMS Forte encountered strong waves so large that it damaged the hull of the ship, and they were forced to turn back. The following weeks, more ships helped with the search, and on August 9th, a captain reported that from afar, he saw several floating bodies at the delta of the Banshee River, near the area where the SS Waratah was last seen. Unfortunately, the ship couldn't come close because of the terrible weather, so they returned back to wait it out. More reinforcements came to check. However, after further investigation, the supposedly dead bodies turned out to be just dead stingrays. After a long search, no clues were discovered, and people started to lose hope. But some suggested that it may have shared a similar fate as the missing case of the SS Waikato back in 1899. The SS Waikato set sail from London to New Zealand. It sailed down the Atlantic Ocean, then around South Africa. Near Cape Alguas, just east of Cape Town, the engine of the ship got severely damaged. Initially, the plan was to drift to the nearest coast so that they could dock and repair the damaged engine. However, due to the extremely strong waves, it was too dangerous. Instead, the captain decided to continue their trip by using the water currents to his advantage. As you can see here on this global water current map, the current was on their side. First, they drifted southwest to reach the Antarctic circumpolar current. From there, they drifted east, riding the strong current. Then as they came close near Australia, the ship steered to a northeast direction and ended up landing on the west coast of Australia. The trip took almost 4 months, and all the people on board were safe. Their survival was a big deal, since no one expected them to sail across thousands of miles with a crippled ship with no radio equipment. So people thought that the SS Waratah ship may have followed the same fate. Captain Joshua Edwards Ilbery had over 30 years of experience at sea, and they believed he led the ship to safety much like the one in 1899. A cargo ship equipped with searchlights was deployed and followed the same path as the SS Waikato from South Africa to Australia. The ship sailed on a zigzag pattern, covering as much area as it could to find any evidence of the missing ship. After 4 months on water, they found zero evidence. They continued their search on the west coast of Australia, hoping it may have docked on some secluded area. Again, it yielded nothing. At this point, they gave up the search and assumed that the ship had sunk. So what are some possible explanations for this? Some suggested that it could be an explosion inside the ship. The captain of the Harlow ship witnessed 2 large explosions near the route of the Waratah, and since the ship was known to have some problems, it may have been from the ship. But the most plausible explanation for this disappearance was that they were probably hit by a strong wave. The area is prone to having huge waves, and some ships that sail through these waters capsize because of it. However, the other ships that were capsized by these strong waves often have survivors. Some manage to get onto lifeboats. Also, most of the time whenever a ship capsized, it always left a huge amount of debris, which was the total opposite in the case of the Waratah ship. The fact that they couldn't find any debris on a relatively small search area was quite odd. While most agreed that a strong wave may have been the culprit, a much clearer and in-depth explanation can be made today. In 1995, a rogue wave was first recorded. These waves are considered to be very dangerous and unpredictable. It can happen suddenly without warning. In fact, even today, these rogue waves are still a threat to large ships such as ocean liners. Back in 1909, scientists didn't know that these rogue waves even existed. They knew that there were huge waves, but the irregularity of these rogue waves is what make them unique. This graph showcased the rogue wave that was detected in the North Sea off the coast of Norway on January 1st, 1995. As you can see, there is a sudden huge spike of wave height, and this irregular pattern could inflict damage and could possibly capsize a ship. However, back then, this explanation was not even considered since they weren't aware of such a thing. Now, a huge wave like this could indeed capsize a ship and swallow it up in an instant, which could explain why there was no debris left behind. Although there is no clear evidence that a rogue wave was the case of the incident, it's the closest explanation they have today.